Welcome back to Ranters and Banters. This is the weekend wrap for August 24th and 25th, match week 2 in the Prem season. Not a great one for Man United or my Leicester City Foxes. But it was plenty of excitement all around the league. Luke, what was your biggest shock result for the weekend?
Biggest shock, probably actually 8 goals in the Chelsea Wolverhampton game. That's not what I was expecting to happen, but a lot of scoring.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think most of us were very, very surprised by that result, and I certainly did not expect it when we were doing predictions. But it seems like Enzo Maresca's side has found its groove after that Man City loss in Week 1. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the matches for this week. We started off with the Red Devils going to Brighton Hove Albion. That one, neither one of us had the correct prediction. Brighton comes out on top, 2-1 through a late João Pedro goal, I believe, in extra time. I did see that Matoma had an assist, so I thought, I did think that he would be a presence in that game, but I didn't get to watch much of it outside the first 15 minutes. So Luke, why don't you tell me what happened in that United game and what you need to see more of from that squad?
Yeah, so you mentioned Matoma. The assist was to Welbeck, who scored his 100th Prem goal against his former academy club, so that was pretty cool for Danny. All love there. I have nothing against Danny Welbeck. Good player. Matoma looked great all game, making passes. He's back to what he was, when he was actually playing 2 years ago, barring injury. United decided to play strikerless again, and I'm still not a fan of it. You gotta have somebody up top. I know they try to push Bruno and Mason Mount out there. I'm not a fan of it. I'd like to see the 6'4", Xerxes out there, or I know Hoyland's hurt, but somebody bigger up front. Ahmad had a great score, no doubt. A little early on in the game, and then Xerxes got an unfortunate offsides on the second goal, would be draw goal. Eventual draw goal, I suppose, because it wasn't until the 95th minute that João Pedro scored, and I don't know what Onana's supposed to do there. Beat him on his far post. 2 unmarked Brighton players. Either one of them could have scored. João Pedro heads it away from Onana. Nobody's checking. Just looks sloppy on the back of the 95th minute. Can't be happening. Can't be happy with that either. But yeah, I would say mostly unlucky draw for Xerxes. Garnacho, great ball, strikes Xerxes in the knee right when it's crossing lines. So full ball has to cross goal line. Call back, offside. So could be draw. Lots of other chances. Casemiro had one a little later on before the 90th minute. So yeah, I think the most egregious thing is you can't have 2 people attacking in the box 95 minutes into the game unmarked.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a tough look, especially at end of the game like that. João Pedro, man of the match there. I think that's pretty well deserved. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So looking after that, we had West Ham and a Crystal Palace, and that was 2-0 to West Ham through 2 goals in the second half. Bowen gets the second, Kilman gets an assist, and then Bowman with man of the match. I just it kind of went how I expected. I didn't think Crystal Palace had that quite yet, and West Ham was coming off that tough loss to Villa and wanted to prove themselves. A little lucky there, but did get that score line exact. We'll see if West Ham can continue that run of form. Next we had Fulham and Leicester City, and we'll have a special guest on a little bit later in the podcast. Our friend Zach, that's it's a Fulham fan, so he'll get to give me plenty of shit about that. But yeah, Fulham take the win through not a late goal, but a second half goal after went into half with a draw. Smith Rowe gets his first through Traore in the first half. At the 18-minute mark, Foss finds the back of the net in the 38th minute, and we'll cycle back to that in a little, I'm sure. And then Iwobi just walks through Leicester's defense and scores in the 70th minute off a great feed from Robinson.
What did you think of Leicester's performance besides that?
I think we were lucky to score the one. I think that my prediction of 2-0 was pretty safe. And there was controversy in that goal with Foss. Jamie Vardy was retreating from an offside position. I think VAR did get the call correct. Vardy wasn't interfering with the goalkeeper. There was no direct line of sight, or there was a direct line of sight. Sorry, he wasn't blocking on line of sight, and so I think the goal standing was a good call. And it's nice to be the beneficiary of a VAR goal for once, most certainly. But outside of that, I think it was the team I expected to show up in this league after losing Dewsbury Hall and Enzo Maresca. There was no sustained pressure at all anywhere the entire game. Our boys were too fucking casual. Like, they're just standing around. Like, the midfield got shut down so hard, and there should be credit given to Fulham for pressing as hard as they did. But the Harry Winks and Abdul Fattah barely possessed the ball until the last 10 or 15 minutes of that game. You need to be playing through Abdul Fattah. Like, anytime he got the ball late in the game, that was when we had good chances. He gets good crosses. We need to play through him. That Fattah-Vardy connection is clearly the strongest thing about this squad right now, especially with new transfers coming in. They still have that connection from the championship. They didn't play through that. I didn't see a lot of touches from Vardy. I think Foss was still a good part of it, but AU comes on, the transfer from Palace, and I was hesitant about him being brought in the first match. I think McAteer came on and was a great presence in that game against the Spurs, and I really wanted to see that early sub to get McAteer on and bring that energy and try to find an equalizer. But we brought AU on instead. He wins a foul immediately. I'm like, okay, all right, we're off and we're cooking. And then, I mean, what is it? 13 minutes later, he's quiet for that entire next 13 minutes. We get a brilliant free kick right outside the box. There was a really bad challenge by Tete, who I think had a lackluster game for Fulham as well. He actually got away with a pretty harsh kick on... it was either Mavididi or Fattah, I don't remember which, off the ball that probably should have been a card and a very harsh warning for him. But AU... free kick directly outside the box just puts it five yards at least over the box, and it just deflated Leicester. Like, after that, there was no fight left after that one. He did win a corner later on, scramble for the ball. Fattah puts it wide right, a shot that he probably should have put on target. But overall, just not a lot of good chances. Winks and Fatawa were activated too late in the game. It was disappointing, and I wasn't really happy with Cooper's review of the game afterwards. I thought he took a lot of responsibility after the first game, and I thought that would continue into his interview into the second game. And I think he just gave the boys a little too much credit when they needed to be torn into a little bit, because you can't go from a 1-1 result against the Spurs to playing like they did against Fulham, who I didn't think played exceptionally well in that game, and be happy with the result and talk great about your team. I know you want to keep the momentum, fresh, and I know you want to keep your players up, but I think you also have to address early on the problems that your team is going through, and give them time. And I know that Cooper wants another striker, and I know he's going to push that as a reason that they're losing games, but they're going to have to figure out how to play through that midfield, and they're going to have to figure out how to not get it shut down, because if Fulham's pressuring like that, every single mid-table team is going to do the exact same. And, I mean, their defense is going to get picked apart by teams that are off to a hot start. Even if Brighton's falling off at the end of the season, they could still put a significant number of goals on us. And Skip was brought on too. He was brought on, and that was it. Didn't see him. No significant action taken. In the what minute was he brought on? He was brought on the 70 in the 71st minute. Nothing for 20 minutes out of Skip. Uninspiring play. And I don't start him next game. I don't want to see him start, quite honestly. Like, I don't think Ndidi was great in that game, but he had some really good defensive plays, and I didn't see Skip earn a spot in that game. We'll see if Cooper agrees or disagrees with me. I think Christensen was another really big. I think he had another really good game, but they subbed him off in the 85th minute for McAteer. That's just way too fucking late to bring McAteer on. I don't know what you're doing after he had such a great sub performance in game one. That's a questionable managerial decision on from my standpoint. So I'd like to see the players that are playing well get those minutes, and the transfers have some time to gel with the squad. And then once it is all put together, then I think maybe slowly introducing those players goes a lot better than shocking a system that's already still trying to figure itself out. And I think that's all I have to rant about right now. But yeah, need to see a lot more from this squad. Not happy with their performance whatsoever. Our boys are better than that. Play the ball through Fatawu. Maybe get Mavididi some more minutes too. I don't see why not. And just don't be afraid to keep the ball, keep the pressure on. There were a lot of unforced errors and a lot of playing the ball, trying to get the ball too far forward too fast, and a little bit of composure is going to go a long way for this squad. Enough about them, though. Man City and Ipswich. I think there was one fairly large surprise in this game, and it was not Mr. Holland's, 7th hat trick?
Yes.
In the league already. Crazy stat in itself. But, I mean, neither one of us saw Ipswich winning that game.
No.
Or I'm sorry, not even just winning that
Scoring.
game. Excuse me, but scoring. Yeah, scoring a goal. Ipswich most definitely did not win that one. But leading early, I mean, hey, at least they can say that they led against Man City, even if it was for 7 minutes.
That's more than something
5.
we'll do all year. So
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And it was the Blackburn Rover transfer, I believe, and he scored in the 7th minute there, and then Holland gets a penalty in the 12th minute. De Bruyne scores in the 14th, Holland again in the 16th, and that's from De Bruyne, and then he finishes out in the 88th minute with just a. I mean, what could you say? The man's just bred to score. Like, he just turns around and fires that ball into the net. Collects his hat trick and man of the match and moves on his very way. Yeah, 4-1. 4-1 the result there. Did you see anything from that game, Luke?
Other than the scoreline, no, I did not.
Yeah. Wasn't too much to watch there. So, Southampton and Forest, and correct scoreline to you on this one. Played out about exactly how you saw, a 70th minute goal for Forest to take the lead late, and that was through Gibbs White, who rightfully I think earns man of the match. And from what I understand, the rest of that game seemed pretty slow and lackluster. Didn't get the chance to watch that, nor did it seem like it would be an exciting one too. But Tottenham and Everton, a few more goals than we thought in this one as well. Tottenham, both of us had the result with Tottenham winning, but they were convincing against against Everton. Sorry. Is this a statement on Tottenham coming back, or is this a statement on how bad Everton is this year? What do you think, Luke?
Yeah, week 2, Everton losing 4-0. They're going down.
Oh,
More
we can
so
dream.
about Everton for sure than anything Tottenham can do. This is how Tottenham should be playing against teams like Everton. Honestly, should be beating teams like Leicester like this. So it's fine to say they can bounce back against Everton like this, but Everton may be one of the worst teams this year.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I don't. Did you see any highlights of the game? Specifically, the second goal through Son in the 25th minute.
I have seen Son's goal. Only that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, just Pickford's reaction to that. He's not excited to play, and he didn't even really care about letting that goal up. He just kind of threw his hands up and he said, "Yep, whatever." So, I mean, Son's got some incredible speed there and showed it. But that Everton team could be in a really, really bad place if Pickford's not showing up to matches.
I stopped checking after that second goal, and if Pickford's looking like that, I can't imagine the Everton fans are any happier, especially with transfer requests. I don't know how the morale of that locker room is going to look besides Pickford.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I don't know either. Romero scored later on, and I only mentioned that because my boy James Madison had a pretty good setup there for him. So Matters finds himself an assist on the day, and then Son rounded out the scoring. Kulusevski also with the assist in the first goal there, and then Son with the man of the match. I don't think there's any argument on that one. And then the last game on Saturday, we had Villa and Arsenal. I had some faith in Villa, and it was misplaced. Pretty convincing win out of Arteta's side, I think. Raya ends up getting man of the match, keeping the clean sheet for Arsenal. So, Luke, you had the 2 goals for Arsenal. You
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's a what do you think about that result on the road for Arsenal? Do you think that that's exactly where they should be at this point of the season? And
Yeah,
can we
for sure.
expect more?
For where they are, yeah, for sure. And I think
Hmm.
if you're going to win the league, you have to keep doing this, especially against somebody who is, getting the best of you, drawing last season, beating them on the road. That's a good place to start the season. A couple more bookings than you would probably like that could hurt them later down, but I think they'll clean that up.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a statement win for Arsenal early on in the season to show that they're back and they mean business, and they're ready for another title run. Sunday's games, Bournemouth and Newcastle, the first one, and this one ends in a 1-1 draw. Another correct scoreline result for you. 37th minute, Bournemouth take the lead, and then Newcastle answer late in the second half in the 76th minute. Anthony Gordon scores the goal to send it to a draw through Harvey Barnes' assist. Another old Leicester boy put up a big, helping Newcastle do a big result after he struggled a little bit with them last season. Any thoughts on that one? I personally didn't see much about it, but
Nothing more to add.
Yeah. Is that a better result for Bournemouth or Newcastle?
Bournemouth, for sure, getting them right. Bunch of transfers. You can tie Newcastle, who might be at mid-table. Should build some confidence for that locker room.
I think so. And Newcastle already struggling, and with Trippier announcing that he wants a departure, I think that team is slipping further down than they anticipated. Wolves and Chelsea, the other game on at the same time this morning before Liverpool and Brentford. And this one, I think, surprised us both. 6 goals total in this game. Great day to have Cole Palmer on your fantasy team.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Captaining him also helps.
Absolutely. Some big points to be had there. We got started in the second minute of the game with a goal, and it just compounded from there. Jackson with a goal and an assist on the second goal from Palmer, and then Palmer feeds. Was it 3 straight assists for the hat trick?
I do believe.
And then João Felix rounds it out with a late goal, and then Cole Palmer. One goal and 3 assists, of course, man of the match material. I think he's shown up in a big way. In this one, and maybe solves some of the questions about after week 1 if he's ready to go for this season.
Perhaps we discounted the Pep-Enzo relationship to where Pep could know the formations Enzo is going to be running out and read and counter all that. This game seems more like an Enzo statement, like we have the talent, we have the play style we want. This is how we're gonna win. Maybe it was more of the City machine shutting down Chelsea than it was Enzo trying to figure out how he's gonna play his squad.
Yeah, and I think this is also big for Maresca because there were a lot of close results for Leicester City in the championship last year. There were not many convincing wins until that late 5-0 thrashing of Southampton. So for him to put up a big result, even if it's against one of the lower mid-table teams, I think puts a lot of faith in him as a manager, puts a lot of faith in the players that they can perform and challenge for a higher spot on the table this year. And to round it out, we had Liverpool and Brentford. Um, this one ends 2-0 to Liverpool. I put way too much faith in Brentford in this one. I did. I'll admit I fell asleep in the second half of this game. It was just kind of all Liverpool. There was nothing really going for Brentford. The only good things I saw out of it were Mbeumo. He seemed to be the only one on Brentford that had any confidence with possession in the ball and moving it forward. He was working really hard, but I could tell he took a really late yellow card in that game, and I think his frustration just finally boiled over. And that was almost even more about his team than it was the being frustrated into maybe the Liverpool defense, which also did their job today. But Luis Diaz from Diego Jota, and then Salah from Luis Diaz. I didn't see who man of the match was. I assumed it was probably Luis Diaz with the goal and the assist. The one thing I did want to note about that game, this is the first time since 1991 that a Liverpool manager has won their first 2 league games, so Slot's off to a strong start there. They also had a record attendance today in that Liverpool match, which, considering Klopp's departure last year, kind of shocked me that they would bring in that much support for a new manager. But they seem to be behind him, so he does have the fan support this year, it seems like. Now we're going to bring on a special guest, Zach, and we're excited to hear what he has to say. And so let's hear from him. And now we'd like to welcome our first ever guest to Ranters and Banters, my friend Zach. Zach, tell me a little bit about the teams you like, what you're in, what leagues you follow, and what you're keeping up with.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'd say probably my top 2 are definitely St. Louis City SC and Fulham. Probably follow the MLS overall a little harder, but still love Fulham and all the boys at the cottage. But yeah, those are my main 2. Watch some USL every now and then for my the team that they used to be my hometown in Omaha. Watch the Omaha Union Omaha, that is, play down in the 4th tier of U.S. soccer and USL 2, but mainly City and Fulham for the most part.
Yeah, and so you just briefly mentioned you were in Omaha, and I think this is your first weekend in New York City, and you got to check out a really cool bar there. That's a big Premier League fan spot. And so we'll come back around to that later. But being that you're a Fulham fan, and being that I'm wearing the Leicester City badge right now, I feel like we have a match that we need to talk about. And so my first, briefly about the game, 2-1 victory for Fulham. Tough for my boys, but I will say I did predict a 2-0 for Fulham, so I wasn't too let down. Just for me, I thought Fulham did a really great job of shutting down Leicester's midfield. Didn't feel like we could play out of it all day, especially in the second half, which is when it came alive against Tottenham. And it just felt like we were unable to find or put any pressure on you guys, which was a little disappointing after the Tottenham game. What did you like about the game out of Fulham? Did you have any players that stood out to you, or anything that you saw, especially in comparison to the first game against Man United, that loss early in the season?
Yeah, I think it wasn't a perfect game, but it was pretty good. I was, like you said, I was a little worried after watching quite a bit of that game with Leicester at Tottenham, especially if Leicester could get in kind of a roll and really come back like they did against them, we could have a problem. but I think we handled it pretty well, especially that first half was very dominant, and I loved seeing the amount of chances we created. I think the only thing that could have made it better was just to put one more of those away, maybe. But really, our two goal scorers. First, I'll start off with Smith Rowe. Um, I love this kid. He's so fun to watch play. He kind of reminds me of a player on City that I could talk about a little bit later, but St. Louis City, that is. Um, but he just seems very cool and collected when he has the ball, and just easily slotted his goal away. Um, and then with our second goal with Alex Iwobi. Iwobi is also just so fun to watch. He is just like, when he gets running down the field, you can't stop him. It's like a train coming towards the net. And I loved just his finesse with the ball, and also the beautiful ball that was played to him to get that goal was wonderful too. So I think in comparison to the Man United game, we're just kind of gelling better as a team. I mean, obviously, playing at Old Trafford is going to be quite a challenge either way. It was the first game of the season, so I really didn't hold too much on that game. But I think we're just coming together better as a team. You know, we've lost a few key players over the last few years, like the one on my jersey, Tim Ream. Very sad to see him go, but I think you could still see some aspects of that not gelling together perfectly in that game, where there were a couple just weird moments where we weren't really sure who was going to pass the ball back, and people were kind of like colliding in the middle of the field. Not really colliding, but kind of almost stepping on each other's toes. So I think it's just, I'm feeling pretty good about this season in general. I think as we play more together, we will gel better together, and just we kind of have to build up more of that chemistry. But as of what we've seen so far against Leicester, I'm very happy.
Yeah, of course I have to ask what you thought about the Leicester goal, being that it was a VAR review. Did you think the goal should have stood? I know there was some controversy there, whether Jamie Vardy was offside. It was ruled that it was a good goal because even though he was retreating from that offside position and he wasn't interfering with the goaltender's line of sight or any attempt on the ball. Do you think that was a good call by the VAR crew, or do you think that goal should have been waved off?
Yeah, it really can, that specific offside rule of impeding the goalkeeper is one that's always kind of trips me up. So I'm not at all an expert on it, but just from my point of view, I wasn't really upset about them not. I wasn't really upset about the call being allowed, or the goal being allowed. I think, yeah, like him and Leno were kind of bumping into each other for a minute, but I feel like he got out of the way with plenty of time for our keeper to still see what was going on. So I'm not really upset about it. Maybe I'm a little more butthurt if the game goes the other way, but I don't really have too many complaints about it.
Yeah, and I think that was a lucky goal for Leicester in itself. We took our chance and got it, just like Tottenham, but I don't think there were too many chances in the back half of the game that even worried you. So maybe for the Fulham fans out there that didn't like that, a little ball don't lie with the score ending 2-1. It all came around in the end. I thought it was interesting looking at the stats, the 55 to 45 possession. That did not seem to be the case. I thought Fulham controlled the ball very, very well, and Leicester had a hard time keeping control of it and moving it up the field.
Yeah, that's crazy. I actually didn't see that.
Yeah.
I had not noticed that possession yet. That's insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you look at the possession, and it looks like a much closer game outside of maybe the shots than it really felt watching it. It felt like Fulham was in control most of the entire game. And I wasn't too high on the two new Leicester transfers when they came in. Skip, I didn't see anything out of, and AU, I mean, he's going to take some time to mesh with the squad. He won a foul immediately, and I'm like, all right, here we go. He's off, he's ready. a lot of faith in him right off the bat, and then he takes that free kick and just, I don't know, put it like 5 yards over from a very good position, and I'm used to a shot that's a little closer than that. But I guess that's what happens when you lose Madison and Dewsbury Hall and Tielemans and anybody who can put on a good shot from there. And I'm sure he'll come around. Just a little disappointing. But overall, you know, it was a fun game to watch from a Fulham perspective. I'm sure, especially surrounded by some good fans. So before I ask you what exactly that was like, do you have a realistic expectation for Fulham's finish in the table this year? Do you think they're a higher mid-table team, lower mid-table? Where would you put them at?
Yeah, I've been really thinking about this, and it's hard for me to say. Like, I've seen a couple from couple different outlets, people putting us. I've heard of people putting us as high as 8, which I think is pretty wishful thinking, and far down to 12. I think I'd be a little more in between them, and maybe see either a 10 or 11th. I think Fulham this year with this squad, we can really shoot towards being that kind of best of the rest team. You know, you have your big six and the others that have started to kind of push up to that level. But I would love to see us kind of command that middle of the table and be able to consider ourselves that best of the rest, especially at the beginning of this year, as I would really like us to be able to shift our focus towards cup play, like especially in the Carabao Cup after the nice run we had last year. So if we could get off to a nice start and have a good buffer from the bottom of the table over these first few matches, I would love to see us get there so we can really shift some focus into the cup play where I think we could really make some noise. So I'd say for my end of season prediction, I'd say I'll go 11th.
Okay. So if you have a good cup run, would you be willing to sacrifice that for a few places in the table? A better cup run?
Oh, yeah, I think I would personally. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe some people feel differently about that, but if we're talking a deep cup run versus like say 11th place and no cup, 10th, 11th place and no cup run, and like, I don't know, 13, 14 and really make some noise in the cup, I think I could live with that personally.
Yeah, I think so too, especially when you're where you're at. I don't think Fulham's quite at the point they can contest any European places this year,
mm-hmm.
but I don't think that they're low enough that they're going to have to fight relegation super hard either. So
yeah, it's kind of a weird spot to be in.
So
I think it's just kind of a weird spot to be in as a team. So like I don't know. I think that's the best kind of route to pick, but I don't know. Maybe some people disagree.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people always disagree, but I think that's very realistic, and I'm on the same page there with you. But I'm interested in hearing about this bar you went to in New York and what that experience was like for you. Heard you of course, you met some Fulham fans there. And there are also some Leicester fans there. I guess they both kind of claim the bar as their stomping ground. So can you tell me a little bit about the bar's name and the location where it's at?
Yeah, so this bar is called Legends. It's just across the street from the Empire State Building on East 33rd Street in downtown Manhattan.
Awesome. And is it a basement bar? Did I read that correctly when I was looking at it? Or am I mistaken in that?
They have a upstairs and a downstairs. When I first got there, I obviously had never been, and I saw that on the Fulham NYC Twitter accounts that said that this was their home bar. So I went in, and I just sat at the bar upstairs, and like it was early, so they have like a nice breakfast menu you could order from. So I got some food, and then eventually I didn't see a ton of Fulham fans there, so I had texted their Twitter account, and he said that they were downstairs. So after I finished my food, I walked downstairs, and it's a whole other kind of environment. Upstairs is a little more well lit and like kind of just a normal bar and grill type restaurant, whereas downstairs it's like just one bar and like standing tables and just a ton of TVs all around. And each like corner of this big square room can be sectioned off, and they'll section off supporter groups with these giant supporter group flags. So like the Fulham fans were all over in this right corner of the basement with a giant Fulham NYC flag blocking off like about a quarter or maybe like just that right back corner of the whole bar so that they could have their speakers on with the Fulham Leicester match and it wouldn't disturb the other matches going. So they can have speakers playing the sound from multiple matches and those fans can shuffle into their corner and watch their game. It's a really, really nice setup.
Wow, yeah, that is brilliant. That sounds amazing. You know, I've been to a few bars that have had Premier League on and claim to be Premier League bars, but that does sound by far the coolest experience. So, how many Fulham fans were there? Did you outnumber the Leicester fans? I have to ask that as well. And what about any other
Yeah,
teams and their fan bases there?
yeah, we definitely outnumbered the Leicester fans, but there were quite a few Leicester fans still. I think today was actually an especially good turnout for the Fulham fans from just talking to the guys that were there. Um, let's see my picture. There were about, oh, I bet there were close to 20 people there for Fulham alone. Um, I can't find the photo of all, but we all took a photo afterward. But yeah, there were about 20 of us there. There was quite a few people that live in the city. There was one guy named Nick who was actually, he has season tickets to Fulham, and he was just visiting New York on a little trip, visiting some friends that lived in Philly, and then he came over to New York City, and he was there watching his home club. He said he was sad he couldn't make it to that game, but he was there watching it with us, just, born and raised Brit, known Fulham all his life. And so that was cool to get to meet him and talk to him. He said if I'm ever there he'd get me a ticket. Yeah, the Fulham supporters were there, loud. I could hear them when I first walked in. And then I'd say there were 20 or so Fulham fans. There were probably about maybe 10 Leicester, and we all just shared that corner. It was kind of just split right down the middle of Fulham on one side and Leicester on the other side.
Awesome, awesome, brilliant. Do you think you'll try to make it back there at least once or twice before you're out of New York? And yeah,
Oh, for sure. I would like to go there for every Fulham match. All the fans there were wonderful. The fans for every it wasn't just Fulham and Leicester fans there. They had every game. There was another corner that was sectioned off for Crystal Palace their match, and I saw a bunch of Palace fans walk in. The upstairs was packed with Tottenham supporters. Yeah, everybody comes to that place to watch. I guess it seems to be like almost the place to watch Premier League, at least in Manhattan that I've seen.
great. That is so awesome. I'm happy that you got to experience that for the first time and that you'll continue to be able to for a little bit. That's wonderful. And we'll make sure to get a few pictures up here at some point during it as well for people to see. Any other venues coming up? I know you've got a kind of a U.S. tour going on this year with your job. So, have you looked forward to anything else? Or I mean, I know that's enough to look forward to, just enough in Manhattan there. But is there anything else you're looking forward to going and checking out?
Yes. So up next, I'll be in Colorado. Well, I guess while I'm in New York, I really want to go see a New York City FC and a New York Red Bulls game. Their actual New York derby is going to happen while I'm here over at Red Bull Arena, so I'm definitely going to go try to make it over to that, and hopefully I could go see a home City FC game as well if I can. They play in either Citi Field or Yankee Stadium, so not exactly the most ideal places to watch a game, but have heard that they have quite a good home crowd, and the plans for their new stadium look beautiful. But try to do that while I'm here. Maybe see some lower level leagues as well. I haven't really looked too much into them. And then as far as MLS goes, while I'm in Denver, if the Colorado Rapids can secure a home game in the playoffs, I could definitely go to one of those. They're fourth right now on the table in the Western Conference, so it's very doable for them. So hopefully I can make it to some playoff MLS as well while I'm out there.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds brilliant, and I hope that they are able to do that for you. Unfortunately, I myself do not know a lot about the MLS, so I'm going to need you to inform me a little bit, maybe of how likely that playoff picture is. What is the state of the MLS? What does it look like right now, and what has drawn you into the MLS as a league, and what's the excitement and draw for you there?
Yeah, the MLS is it's a very interesting league. Very like people that are fans of other international leagues would probably be quite confused by a lot of things that MLS does. It's very Americanized, but not as much as it used to be back in like the olden days of like the 90s and early 2000s of the MLS. There are 29 about to be 30 teams. So quite a big schedule and lots of teams in it, as you would see in an American league. And then different also as well from international leagues is you don't just have a season winner that just put up the most points in the table that year. You always have a playoffs. There is an award called the Supporters Shield for the team that finished top of the table. However, it's not really regarded. It's not regarded as highly as the actual MLS Cup champion that comes at the end of the playoffs. And the way the playoffs are work is there are 18 teams in the playoff, which also is a ton. Fans of the NHL would maybe kind of recognize how many teams are in the playoffs. It is more than half in the MLS. And I believe the top 4 seeds in each conference, Eastern and Western, get home field advantage. And then there is one little play-in game between the bottom 2 seeds of each conference. And so that's how the champion is crowned. Other than that, it's just kind of scheduling differences. You play each team in your conference home and away, but you only play the teams in the other conference once a year. So we play all the Western Conference teams, we being St. Louis City, twice a year, and plus Kansas City 3 times, since that's a nice little rivalry. And then the Eastern Conference teams will just play once a year, and that just rotates home and away every other season. So that's pretty much how all of that works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so for me, I guess, it sounds kind of like the President's Trophy, in the NHL. You made the NHL reference, so I'm going to piggyback on that, where, points at the end of the season, there's a reward for it, but that's not the end goal. There's still a championship to win. So you mentioned St. Louis City, and that's your favorite team in the MLS. I was lucky enough to go to a St. Louis City game in their inaugural season before I moved out here to Raleigh. That was brilliant. Great atmosphere, great environment, passionate fans. What does their season look like this year after their first season went so well until the playoffs last year?
Yeah, it has quite been very much been the exact opposite of last season. It's been very rough. We are sitting second to last in the Western Conference, and in the overall table, also second to last with a measly 24 points right now. The first half of the season has just been plagued with the inability to finish our chances and just be clinical in the box of scoring. This first half, mainly right before Leagues Cup started, that was our issue. Our strikers we didn't have the guy striker on our team that could just create chances and put chances away. And so it was just rough. We're currently at 12 ties on the season. We're sitting 4-12-10. Most of those ties came in that first half where, we saw all this promise, but we couldn't hang on to leads, and we would just end up tying so many times. It was very frustrating. And so going into the transfer deadline, we've picked up quite a few new players. The most notable of which I think are three being at least up front are Simon Betcher, um, who came from, I want to say, I know he was playing for the Vancouver Whitecaps. That's who it was. Also in the MLS, who is our new man up front. And then we signed two German strikers as well, being Cedric Teuchert, who played for Hannover 96 in the Bundesliga, and Marcel Hartl, who played for St. Pauli I believe that was in the Bundesliga 2, but they just got promoted this past season.
Okay.
So, and pretty much all of our offense now coming into the second half of the season and in Leagues Cup has run through that front three. I think Marcel Hartl has, in 3 games now, the most assists on our team. Everything is running through them, and while I think our defense has taken a bit of a hit from it, they are leading us towards being able to score goals. As you'd see in the last game we just had was 4-4 against Portland. Like, yeah, we're being leaky, but we're being more clinical now and actually being able to score some of the chances that are given to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And because you mentioned it, let's talk about that game a little bit against Portland. Four goals apiece and a red card. What happened there?
So we had a good, like I said earlier, Simon Betcher, assisted by Marcel Hartl in the 10th minute. I believe that was just a nice little header from him. I think it was a corner kick and a header, but that could be wrong. We score there, play on a little bit more. Portland gives up a bad penalty, just obliterates one of our guys in the box. It was not close. And so our main man in the middle, Edward Leuven, who's been kind of one of the two City like mainstays for most of this season or for most of our career, just always there, always putting in the work. He absolutely drilled this PK, just at the speed of light. I think he could have told that poor keeper exactly where he was putting it, and it still would have gone straight in. And then we give up another goal just a couple minutes later. And then Cedric Teuchert, assisted by Marcel Hartl, again puts in another one in stoppage time at the end of the first half. So we're up 3-1. If, like, the first half of this game was amazing, that is some of the best I've seen this team play in a while, maybe even throughout their entire existence. But then it's just not being able to hang on to leads, which was an issue earlier in the season, but I think it's kind of rearing its head a little bit more now, especially after we lost one of our assistant captain, Tim Parker, in a trade, who was our main does everything center back. So we give up another one from Philippe Mora on the Portland Timbers, and then we even get another back right after. It was the 57th minute, Portland scored, 58th minute, City scored on just a banger curling shot from right out the box by Nokvi Thoresen. But then we let them score again in the 64th minute, made some changes, and then we're still up 4-3 in stoppage time. And once we get into stoppage time, Portland actually has a red card from I think it was a pretty questionable red card in my opinion. I think it definitely should have been a yellow. He kind of not really kicked, but stepped on a bit one of our players' heads as he had come down, but it was such like a just bodies going all over the place scenario that there wasn't really anything he could do, or it definitely wasn't like aggressive or anything like that. So Portland gets a red, which feels amazing. We have 11 minutes left of stoppage time, but Evander Ferreira, after a really bad foul by our player Jose Kojima just outside the box, just drills this beautiful curling free kick into the upper left corner of the goal. Like nothing, our wall couldn't stop it. Berkey, our keeper, couldn't stop it. It was just like, you can't even be mad at him scoring that goal to tie it 4-4, and that's how it ends. So just looked amazing, and then just let it all kind of leak away was how it happened this game.
Yep, I'm familiar with that a couple seasons ago from Leicester. It's eerily similar, where we would fall off at the end of the game like that. So I can definitely feel for you in City there. What obviously there are some changes that you've touched on that you like. What else do you think City needs to address to find that form that they had again in the first season? Is it people need to be brought in? Do they need to readdress their formation? What do you think the possible solution is?
I think, it. This game was kind of frustrating, but also saw a lot more promise. I feel very good about where our club is heading in the future, at least where we are now compared to the beginning of the season. I think our sporting director, Steel, has made some amazing signings, especially in the three that I mentioned before. And so I think we're on the right track. I think we just need a couple, like maybe one or two more good pieces. Nothing like no huge crazy signings or anything like that, but just some good pieces on our back line to help out our amazing goalkeeper and Roman Berkey as well. And I think we have a very competitive team. We don't really have much of a chance making it to the playoffs this year. We would, I believe now, if all the teams were to continue on their current form, we would need to win, I think, 7 of our next 8 matches, which is quite a task. But so I think our guys are still going to play well, are still going to, play hard and try to fight through towards the end of the season, because anything can happen with this playoff format. But I think we're going in the right direction. We're addressing the scoring issues, and then if we can just get a little bit better on defense, I think we're going to be a very dangerous team to play next season.
All right, wonderful. Glad that they're making those adjustments, learning from it, and getting back to a place that I know City wants to be at. I'm sure it's been tough watching that this year after such a great performance in their inaugural season. And so the last thing I wanted to ask you about, I know you had some other things you were looking forward to. Oh, before I finish up with MLS though, have you seen a team in the MLS you think is your winner for this season? Is there someone that you can feel comfortable in predicting that might take the championship?
It's really tough. Even if this was a league where it was just on the whoever finished at the top of the table, the top the top 3 teams at the table right now are 52, 56, and 52 points. So I mean, it's pretty tight. And then throwing in that it all comes down to playoffs, it's honestly really tough to choose. I really like what the Columbus Crew is doing, even though they've been having more of a rough season. They won it last year, kind of being a dark horse to win it all. And they have an amazing, actually St. Louis-born goalkeeper, and looking to be possibly a name for the U.S. men's national team, possibly getting in there as well, in Patrick Schulte. And so I like them possibly making a run in it as well. Both LA teams look fantastic this year. Obviously Inter Miami with all the signings that they've made. But I think if I had to choose for this season, I don't really feel super confident in it, but I'd go with FC Cincinnati. They were a favorite to win it last year. They won the Supporters' Shield, but then actually got bounced by their rival Columbus. And I think they're going to be coming back just kind of angry of how they finished last year and have this want and drive to kind of make it all the way. So I'll go with FC Cincinnati. It's probably not the most popular pick, but I like their chances in the playoffs personally.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to keep my eye on them and see where that goes. And then so that's kind of thank you for expanding on the MLS for me and giving me that. And last thing, you mentioned something about going and watching some practice for the U.S. Open for tennis. Tell me about what that was like.
Oh yeah, it's been really cool being here in such a big city with so many sporting things to do. And luckily, I got here right as the U.S. Open started, so I went into the uh, famous Arthur Ashe Stadium and got to see some of Carlos Alcaraz practicing, getting in some practice against another men's player who I just slipped my mind, but they had a really good, fun practice to watch with some, um, like they were definitely having some fun with it and giving the crowd a show in there with their practice, uh, hitting some really, like I'm no tennis expert whatsoever. I'm just like um, very much new, trying to get into it and play it more. But it was a lot of fun to see and something I definitely go back to see more of. You just go into the grounds of the U.S. Open, and then you get to watch all these big name players just practicing, getting ready for their matches, and it's completely free. Any For this first week when everybody's doing their practice, it's free to enter. You just get a free ticket online and you can walk all around. There's a lot of cool merch and good restaurants to eat, and it's like just kind of tennis Disney World. It's crazy, but it was really cool. I would definitely go back again.
Yeah, that's a great experience, and can't wait to hear about any and everything else sports related while you're in New York City or on your kind of U.S. tour this year with your job. So I'm sure we'll have you back on at some point soon. But I want to thank you again for coming on, and that's our first guest, Zach.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun. Enjoy it. I'll definitely return.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon. And give him confidence. He only slips one from his starting position, and then only finishes with the two Mercedes as a real threat behind him. So looks like those top three teams are feeling pretty good right now, coming back.
Yeah. I think McLaren and Ferrari are looking forward to Baku and Singapore when they get some more corners and taking some more points off of Red Bull in the championship.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to
But
see how that Red Bull is again on the straights too.
oh yeah,
See if they can make up some time there as well.
you mentioned Mercedes finishing behind Perez here. What did you make of Hamilton getting into the points again, and then also we'll just call it the Russell debacle at this point?
All right, you heard me on Friday. I put faith in Mercedes. I thought they would come out hot, and boy, did they bungle this one today. I mean, just made an entire mess of it. They put Hamilton, they bring him off the hard tires and put him on the softs. And I'm okay with that. I have no problem with it. And then all of a sudden, Russell's running in what, fourth behind Leclerc? And they
Correct.
just pull him for softs too? I don't understand it. I don't get it. I get that you're trying to run for fastest lap, but at that point, Hamilton already had it. And what are you pulling him off for? Like, do you think you're going to make up that 20 seconds on a course like that? Do you really think that you have it? And he still finishes, a good 5 seconds behind Perez? Like, they don't even get back to the pack. It seems like a needless loss for points for Mercedes. And I don't think we're used to a lot of bad strategy calls on Mercedes' part. But if you're genuinely trying to come back as a team and put yourself in a place where you can pass, I mean, at least Ferrari for third, you can't be pulling a Ferrari strategy and Ferrari being the team that's got the better strategy. Like, I mean, obviously, I'm not the biggest George Russell fan. Hamilton gained, 6 positions today off the start? I think he started on 14th on the grid. And there's nothing wrong with that either. But to pull both of them, put softs on both of them, and then not get the fastest lap. Lando finishes the last lap of the race on very worn hard tires and takes fastest lap away from you. What are you thinking? Like, just an absolute brain dead strategy from Mercedes, and they paid for it today. And this could have long-term implications for them. You left, 6 points on the board at least there. Not good for the remainder of their season in the constructors, and they needed at least one good result today, out of one of their drivers, and that needed to be Russell. And I think that decision was taken out of his hands. Unless he called for it for some reason. I didn't hear any radio though, so I most definitely think he wouldn't have taken himself out of that strategy unless there was something with the car I don't know about. But significant letdown for Mercedes. I'll tell you what isn't a significant letdown though. Pierre Gasly points. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Pierre Gasly has cemented himself as best of the rest after that for me. Him and Alonso very clearly were the ones scrapping today for those points. Well-deserved points for both of them. I think Hülkenberg was all right in the Ferrari, in the Haas Ferrari. And I don't have anything against him and Haas, but clearly not the better driver. I think another person that had a really good race that might get overlooked is Danny Rick. I think he did a lot with that Red Bull to bring it back with the RB. I don't think he was quite on the. I don't know if he did. Did he do the soft, medium, soft strategy today?
He had 2 stops. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he made the most of that because he was really down in the order a few times and fought his way back up. I think he had a really good race, and I think that might be overlooked a little bit. I think Esteban is kind of an abysmal place in 15th there. I don't understand how one Alpine can be 9th and the other one can be 15th. That's just driver diff for me. I'm glad he's not back next season. And I hope that it doesn't cost Alpine additional points this year because I think that Pierre has shown that there's enough in that car that they can make a good run for it. Now, whether it's good on the straights and whether they're going to continue having issues with it like they did the first half of the season, those are questions only time will answer. But I think Ocon has to perform a little bit better in that car, especially since he's finishing right behind Stroll, who isn't getting the most out of his Aston Martin either, is pretty clear with Alonso finishing in 10th. But I do think those two are respectively the best drivers in the rest of the pack, and I think Hülkenberg and Ricciardo in those 11th and 12th spots isn't a stretch to say that those drivers don't deserve those spots as well. But we'll see if Alpine can continue their record with these cars. I'd like to see Gasly clearly has the mentality to get these points, so Alpine need to just keep improving this car for him and giving him the absolute best that they can. But yeah, definitely a cause for celebration. 2 more points for him there, and that puts Alpine up to 13 on the year, still sitting in 8th, so they have some work to do if they're going to catch Haas. And I don't know if that's going to be possible. They're going to need a couple races with some really good results, and I just don't know. Barring DNFs from the top 4 teams, I don't think, as it was proven today, that any of those cars outside of the Red Bull, McLaren, Mercedes, and Ferrari are competing for those top 8 spots. So barring a significant strategy mess up or having to retire the car for some sort of issue, I don't see major points being scored by Alpine. So they're going to have to really scrap to move up in the order at all. But I think Gasly could put up some more points this year. So exciting one for me. there, my favorite driver. Do you think? What did you think about Piastri's performance today? Do you still have faith in him that he can ride it out, or do you think Lando's really trying to cement his place as driver number one this year, and make a run for that drivers' championship as well?
Yeah, they should be betting on Lando to make a run here. Yeah, I like Piastri drive today. Fourth, I think, was final spot today. He drove it as best he could. I mean, obviously, the other McLaren's finishing first. He was lap record on the day. Argument he has more motivation because they picked Piastri a couple races ago. Maybe that lit a fire under Lando to tighten it up a bit. I think, in general, both McLarens are going to be happy where they are. And if they're going to pick a driver number one, I think they're going to have to decide pretty quickly that it's Norris because he's in the Drivers' Championship in points right now. I did have Dark Horse Piastri. Lando wins today. I think if you're going to go for a Drivers' Championship and knock off Max, you have to go Lando because as it stands right now today, every race here on out, if Lando wins and gets best lap, and Max finishes second place in every single race, Lando will win by 1 point. He could have won by more if they had let him stay in first place a couple races ago, but we all know what happened there. And I think the only other thing to add is that it's been a tough weekend for Logan Sargent. Not only did he wreck his car, he probably lost his job early. So I guess pour one out for the American. He'll be in IndyCar next year.
Wow. Was there? I guess did I miss something? Was there an announcement or?
So they rumored are looking at running a Mick Schumacher / Liam Lawson the rest of the season, starting as soon as Monza for the Williams. So quick contract details would be just, you got to go talk to Helmut at Red Bull to get Liam to drive for the rest of the year, and they won't say no because they don't have a seat for him. Same for Mick Schumacher. He's Mercedes Academy, I guess, with Kimi Antonelli, and they'll look for a seat for Mick just to see what he's got. Son of Michael Schumacher, of course, former. Oh boy. Number of championships escapes me, but Formula 1 champion. Yes. Was it the same as Lewis? Okay.
Yep.
Then yeah, so his son or Liam Lawson to fill out the rest of the year, and I would not be surprised if Williams made that decision just to freshen it up because, frankly, all Logan has done is cost Williams money by wrecking out. Nothing to show for it points-wise.
Is it going to be just one of those two, or are they trying to replace Albon and run both of them?
No replacement for Albon. He's on the team next year, I think, with Sainz at the moment. Could be running that contract situation, but they're definitely looking to move from, at least in the rumors around the paddock, move on from Logan.
All right, well, there you have it. Sargent on his way out. So we'll take one look at the constructors here a little bit too. McLaren closes the gap to 30 points after that extra one tacked on by Lando today. How many races does it take from here for McLaren to take the lead?
Two. Monza, they repeat. One of them will win. I'll take that prediction right now. One of the McLarens will be finishing first.
And that'll be this weekend, right?
Yes, follow straight up. And then we go to another break before, I believe it's Baku, but
okay.
I'd have to check.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm sure we'll cover that in more detail over at next weekend's Outlook, and you can fill me in on any more rumors, and we'll preview that. Look forward to that on Friday. So, all right. Well, that's the weekend wrap for Ranters and Banters. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your co-host, Briley.
And I'm Luke.
We'll see you next time.